Alright, ladies and gentlemen, this is going to be our video on how to study, and this is going to be a school survival guide on how to go through and effectively study for our science class. Let's get started on this next video. So if we're looking at the ways that you're going to receive material in class, well, how am I receiving that material? Well, you're going to get it in 4 different ways. So let's go through and break this up into the 4 different ways we're going to see it in class. The first and most fundamental way that we're going to see our material is the direct instruction. It's going to take place via instructional videos like the one we see here, or it's going to take place in class via Nearpods. So the benefits of this is the instructional videos you can go back and look upon. And then we also do in-class Nearpods with a lecture, and we also go through and do practice within that Nearpod. Now next what we're going to see are the practice assignments. Sometimes we call them worksheets. They're going to be a little bit more interactive, and I try to do a good job of hitting the things that you just need so that way you don't feel like it's a waste of time. There's going to be doodle diagrams, which are going to summarize your notes and ask you to do a small amount of coloring. And then there are also going to be practice sheets on Formative, and Formative is a tool that we'll go over in a little bit. Now next what we're going to see is the labs, and there's 2 things that the labs serve for in my mind. They're going to take place in class, but one, they give you a break, and they try to kind of summarize and connect the material we're learning to some sort of hands-on activity. So one, it gives you a break from doing some of the instructional material from normal school, but it also tries to get you to connect it to a real-world scenario where we can actually see some of the scientific processes in play. Now lastly, and the other fundamental way that we're going to see things is with pre-made flashcards. And I make each of these flashcards for you, and they are designed to test comprehension and be used as a study tool so that way you can go back and look at them later to practice for the exam. So these are the 4 main ways. Let's look at them in a little bit more detail, give you examples, and kind of see how we're going to utilize these. All right, so if we're looking at direct instructional videos like this one here, you're going to want to take notes. And we're taking notes because this is going to be the fundamental way that you're going to go through and get the foundation of the material that we're learning. So sometimes you're going to be asked to work on the video during a mastery path in class, which we'll look at during the first week. But you're also going to be asked to work on some of the videos at home, so that way it opens up more lab time for us and opens up more time in class for us to do some activities. The bottom here, you can kind of see one of the videos. They're interactive. They have my voice back there. They're designed to be streamlined, and I spend a lot of time planning to make sure that they cover all of the essential material in as efficiently a way as possible. Now, if we go through and look at how to take effective notes, let's go through and look at the textbook here, and let's go through and look at a video as to how we would go through and properly do this. All right, so let's go through and pretend that we're going through and taking notes from one of our videos. So if you go to my website, let's go through and I don't know, we'll do ecological niche here. So you're going through and let's go through. We have our YouTube video that you can go through and watch. Commercial here, so hold on one second. We're going to skip the commercial and we're going to go to my website here. And here's the video, an instructional video that you would see for our class. You can hear my voice in the background. And let's skip to a part where we would go through and take notes here. All right, so let's go through and watch this section here real quick.
Now, if we were to take these organisms and put them in their respective ranges, what we're going to see is they would go through and die because they simply do not have the tolerance.
Okay, we'll go through, we'll look at that. And let's skip to a part here where we have some vocabulary and definitions. Wait for it to go through and load.
Realized niches is the set of conditions actually used by an animal after interactions with other species, after predation and competition have been taken into account.
Okay, so let's pretend I went through and watched this section here. So I watched that video and I have these definitions, I have the slides. How do I actually go through and take notes here? Well, the first thing that I'm going to do is anytime that I see the yellow here where it goes through and shows a definition, I'm going to write that definition down on my notes. So I'm going to label my notes. Maybe I'll name this, whatever it was. We had a biodiversity video, and I'm writing on the computer, so my handwriting is not going to be very good. And we're looking at ecological niches here. So I'm going to put logical niches. All right, there's a little bit of lag with the pen. That's okay. And what I'm going to do is the first thing I'm going to go through and do is write down the definition. So underneath here, I will copy down. You don't have to copy down the whole definition, but I would copy down most of the definition for both fundamental niche plus realized niche. That would go through and I would put that in my notes. And now what I would do is I would go back to maybe that example that I've gone through and watched, and I would talk about, well, maybe there is a difference between these two. Maybe ask myself the question, what is the difference? We'll just put what is the diff here. And then what I would do is I would explain the difference between fundamental and realized niche. And then under here, so I would explain difference. I would give an example. Maybe that was the example that was in the beginning of the video. If we were to skip all the way back when we were talking about ranges and tolerances, it would maybe give the example of the range of species, the difference between the clownfish and the Pacific cod here. So in this section, I would say, okay, well, here is an example of maybe niches here where we would see different ranges of species. Okay. And the goal here is for me to go through and kind of think about, well, maybe what are some of the test questions that I'm going to be asked to answer, but what are the fundamental key things that I should be taking away from this video? Definitely the definitions. I want to be copying down these examples. What I could also do is maybe if I really wanted to go crazy with my notes, I could go through and put a drawing here, and that would help me go through and remember, the difference between a fundamental and a realized niche here. And I would go through and draw the barnacles. But what I'm trying to do is just summarize and give a synopsis by going through and writing down on this piece of paper and really solidifying it in my mind by going through and writing it down, what is going through and occurring. You can also go through and do this on Google Docs, but it is actually better scientifically to go through and write it down utilizing pen and paper. The other thing that you can go through and use is we also have a textbook that I've gone through and put together for you. I'm in the process of writing this textbook for you, but you can also go through if there are parts of the video that maybe you want to read a little bit more about, or you would prefer it to be in words. You can go through and look at that in our textbook. Okay, so you can also take notes from that. We want to be thinking about how we're going through and summarizing what we're getting from our videos, so that way when you come into class and I give a lecture, all you have to do is listen to me and pay attention, and that way you're absorbing all the material you're getting from that Nearpod or that lecture. All right, the next thing that we're going to go through and see here are the doodle diagrams. Now, the doodle diagrams are meant to go through and be a synopsis of the key materials and the key notes that we have for whatever section we're going through and looking at. So if we're going through and looking at this, there are blank spaces. This is what you will be given, and you're asked to go through and use the master key. And I'm going to provide you with a master copy that you're going to go through. One, it's allowing you to copy down and rethink some of the notes that you've taken, but it's also allowing you to go through and look at these graphics that you're going to maybe see on an exam or see on the Keystone. So I will either provide you with the copy, and then I'll either ask you to go through and fill in the blanks for whatever it is, or I will give you a blank copy of whatever that doodle diagram is to summarize the key points from each of those sections. Now, if we look at this next section, this is a practice sheet. It's designed to reflect and reinforce ideas from the videos and from the Nearpods. So it's designed to simulate the things that you will see on the test and kind of reinforce those questions there. This is a very easy one. It's asking for what is a characteristic of life for each organism here, but it's asking you to go through and look at this and kind of think about what are the characteristics of life. Again, I try to limit the amount of these that I go through and give out, but they're imperative that you kind of get this practice and see these types of questions. That way it practices you for the exam. All right, and then lastly here, we're going to see our task cards. Our task cards are really something that I've designed to help you go through and study. So what they do is they give the students ability to test themselves and study later. And each of the borders, this one is a single border. There's double borders, you'll see 2 lines, and then triple borders. And what I've done is I've organized the flashcards based on the hardness level of each of the types of question. What you can do is you can cut these out, answer the questions, and then it allows you to go through and test yourself later and utilize this as a study tool. All right, so now what we've gone through and seen is, I've seen all the tools that I go through and utilize in class. How do I go through and put this together, and how do I put this into a program that I can go through and use to study. The first and most key important thing is you need to take detailed and effective notes in class. There are guided note outlines and stuff that I will go through and provide for you if needed, but I want to go through and kind of reinforce that idea of taking your own notes in class, because what it'll allow you to do is prep yourself for the chemistry, the physics, the environmental science courses that you're going to go through and take later. So you need to take detailed and effective notes from the video. And the key thing about those videos is, if you don't get through all the notes, when I do a lecture, do a Nearpod or something in class where I'm kind of talking at you for a very short period of time, you don't have to take notes. You can just listen to me and then go back to the videos later. So the detailed notes are the foundation for all the material that we're learning in class. Now, once you've gone through and taken those notes, you're going to go through and do some of the practice assignments in class. Again, we're not trying to go through and do them as quickly as possible, but we're trying to go through and I'm not grading them on accuracy, I'm grading them on completion. But I'm going to go through, I want you to see what the correct answers are through formative. I want you to go through and think about some of the problems that you're seeing, because if you get it wrong, I want you to go back and think about that. So, when you get to that exam, you can get the questions correct. All right, so that's pretty standard for a normal class. How do I go through and now take this to the next level and really make myself an effective studier? Well, I'm going to want to review the notes on a regular basis. I'm going to want to go over some of the material that I don't know. And once I've gone through and looked and reviewed those notes, you're going to review the task cards and retest yourself. The task cards go along with the doodle diagrams, which go along with the videos, which go along with all of the notes that you have. Everything's designed to kind of be in order there. So what you can do is you can test yourself and test comprehension based on the borders that you're going to see on each of these task cards, and they're going to resemble the questions that you're going to see on the exam. All right, the last thing that I provide you is I usually provide you with 2 or 3 practice exams. So you're going to take that practice exam without notes, and it's going to determine, if I were to take the test right now, what is the percentage or the grade that I would get, and what are the topics that I need to go through and cover. And then once you take those practice exams, you can review a little bit more, and then you can do a little bit final review, get a good night's sleep, eat breakfast in the morning, and then take your exam. Again, I'm trying to go through and create this curriculum to make it as streamlined and easy as possible for you. So that way all you have to do is follow the things that we have in class and be amply prepared for the exam. All right, that should be fine. It should be 110%. Fine.